Belonging. Belonging refers to this idea that you have at least one really deep connection with someone or the other. Okay? There was a study done, and the eventual paper was called Very Happy People. Okay? So not a very scientific name for a study. Okay? And they looked at the top 10% of the happiest people in the study among the participants. And these people, these happiest 10%, had a variety of characteristics that were highly correlated, significantly correlated, I should say. They tended to live in smaller cities like Austin rather than bigger cities like New York. Okay? They tended to be, believe it or not, more religious than less religious. Okay? But they also tended to, if they were religious, they tended to believe, the happier people tended to believe in a loving God as opposed to a punitive God. Okay? So maybe spiritual is a better word. They tended to be more extroverted rather than introverted. And so there were lots of things that were kind of correlated with being happier. Okay? These were correlations. But there was one trait that every single last one of the top 10% of the people had. So it was no longer now a statistical correlation, it was 100%. You had to have this quality if you were to belong to the top 10% of the happiest people. Okay? And this quality was that every last one of them had at least one really intimate relationship, right? Someone that they could fully depend on, they could call this person up if they ever ran into any emergency, and that person would have no hesitation in jumping to this person's rescue. They could let their hair down, be themselves, not fear that they would be judged, etc. Okay, so you need to ask yourself, okay, do I have such a person in my life? Again, I mean, maybe it's ideal if that person were to be a spouse, given the amount of time that we spend with our spouses, but 80% of the people who had that kind of a relationship actually named a same gender friend rather than their spouse. Okay? So friends are very, very important, it turns out. Okay? There's a line from the paper that I've actually memorized because I think it really captures the essence of that finding. And the line is, if you aspire to belong to the very happiest group of people, right? If you aspire to belong to the very happiest group of people, then having a sense of intimacy is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. Okay, having a sense of intimacy is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. So you need to ask yourself, is that true for me, right? And if you do want to be in the happiest group, then you need to have that sense of intimacy. Okay, the opposite of that is loneliness. If you're lonely, you don't even have even a single person to, forget about intimacy, right? To even understand you, to even kind of hang out with you, to go out and have a drink with you, to go and share a dinner with you, and so on. And loneliness is one of the biggest epidemics in the United States right now. I don't know if you guys know this. Okay? There's a very good book that came out on the topic about 4 years back. If you think you might be lonely or you know somebody who's lonely, I would highly recommend this book. It's called Loneliness by a guy called John Cacioppo. Okay? All right, so